Imagine standing in a narrow corridor deep within the Forbidden City. The year is 1720, and you can feel the weight of the past surrounding you. The walls, painted in imperial yellow, shimmer in the flickering light of candles. But the air, it's thick with the scent of jasmine incense mixed with fear. Every step you take is cold as your silk slippers glide effortlessly over the polished stone beneath you. You're only 15 years old, and today your life has changed forever. You have just been selected as one of the Emperor's newest concubines. At first, excitement floods your chest. The luxury, the honour, the beauty of the Forbidden City. But the further you walk, the heavier the air becomes. Soon that excitement fades into confusion, and with every step you begin to realise something much darker is lurking behind the grandeur. Ahead of you is an elderly eunuch, his shadow dancing across the stone walls as he leads you deeper into the palace. His footsteps are slow and purposeful, and you follow quietly, knowing that everything you thought you understood about the Emperor's world is about to change. You can hear the faint sound of water trickling from ornamental fountains in the distance, but nothing can drown out the pounding of your heart. The eunuch stops and turns, his eyes meeting yours. His gaze is cold, but there's something else there. Pity? Or maybe something more chilling. He speaks in a low voice, barely louder than a whisper. "Listen carefully, child," he says. "What I'm about to tell you will determine whether you live or die in this place. You swallow hard. The truth is about to be revealed. The truth behind the Emperor's power. The truth about the invisible chains that bind every woman who enters the Emperor's bedchamber. This is not a world of honour. It is a world of rules. Strange, terrifying rules that every concubine must obey, or face the consequences." Before we dive deeper into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, take a moment to like and subscribe. This journey through hidden truths will leave you shocked. And don't forget to comment below to tell me where you're listening from. It's incredible how we're exploring these ancient stories together, no matter where we are in the world, connected by our shared curiosity about history. The first rule you must learn, though it seems simple, is the most important. Never turn your back to the Emperor. It sounds harmless enough, but it is not. In the Emperor's court, trust is a luxury no one can afford. The Emperor fears betrayal, and every moment could be the one where someone attempts to end his reign. This rule isn't just about showing respect, it's about survival. The concubines are always on alert, constantly aware of their surroundings. When the Emperor enters the room, no matter what you're doing, you must position yourself so that you never face away from him. Even when you undress, even when you walk, your back must always stay turned toward the walls, your face toward him. At first, it seems impossible, but you soon learn the art of movement. You see Min, one of the older concubines, glide gracefully through the room. She moves like water, slow, deliberate, and careful. Never once does she let her back face the Emperor. She pivots, turns, reaches for things in smooth, practiced motions, keeping her gaze fixed on the Emperor. There's no hesitation in her movements, no sign of fear, just the quiet mastery of someone who has learned to survive by never breaking the rule. You begin to understand this is not just a rule, it is the foundation of your existence in the Emperor's world. It is a lesson in submission, in control, and in staying alive. Your every movement must be calculated, your body bending to the Emperor's will without ever showing any sign of weakness or fear. The fear inside the palace is real. You can feel it in your bones, thick and heavy in the air. The palace is a place of luxury, but also one of constant tension. The knowledge that your survival depends on how well you follow. These rules creates a deep unease inside you. There is no room for mistakes. The second rule is a much harder blow. You must never speak unless spoken to, and when you do speak, you must refer to yourself in the third person. I no longer exists. Instead, you are this unworthy concubine, this lowly servant. Your identity is erased, and you become nothing more than a vessel, a tool for the Emperor's pleasure. The Emperor does not see you as a person. You are a thing, an object in his world. At first, the idea of losing yourself seems unbearable. You're a person with thoughts, hopes, dreams, but as the days pass, you feel it. The weight of silence, the pressure to conform. When you speak, you forget who you are. You speak as this concubine, never I. Over time, this rule begins to change you. The fragments of who you once were start to fade, and you are left wondering if you will ever remember what it felt like to be whole again. The concubines before you, those who have lived in the harem for years, move through their days with a sense of numbness. They've long since stopped thinking of themselves as individuals. Their lives are defined by obedience, by submission. There is no I, only the concubine. You watch them and feel a deep sense of sadness. The loss of self is not just a punishment. It is the most devastating consequence of submission. And now you too are learning to speak without thought, to exist without identity. You begin to wonder if the system has already started to break you. You wonder if you can still remember what it feels like to be you. The rule forces you to shrink, to bend, to silence everything that makes you who you are. Your thoughts are no longer your own, and slowly your sense of self begins to slip away. The palace is no longer a place of grandeur or beauty. It is a place of erasure, a place where everything you once were is fading into nothingness. You are being reshaped, remade, and with each day you become more of the thing the emperor demands you to be. The third rule is one that chills you to the core. Never look directly into the emperor's eyes during intimacy. At first, this seems strange. How could eye contact with the emperor be dangerous? But the eunuch's voice is steady as he explains the rule. Eye contact is forbidden. It is seen as an intimate connection, a personal bond that cannot exist in the emperor's world. If you meet his gaze, you risk revealing something. Fear, perhaps. Pain. A sense of rebellion. Any emotion that could make him question his power. The emperor is not just a ruler. He is a man who fears vulnerability, who fears seeing anything in the eyes of those he controls. The rule is not simply about respect, it is about ensuring that the emperor's absolute power is never challenged. As the days pass, you begin to see the consequences of this rule. Every concubine avoids his gaze, their eyes always fixed on a point below his chin. They move through the emperor's chambers as if they're not even human, no warmth, no connection, just empty obedience. And you learn to do the same. This rule doesn't just strip you of your humanity, it forces you to disconnect from your own feelings. When you look at the emperor, you are not supposed to feel anything. You must erase yourself completely, maintaining the illusion of submission. You learn to keep your emotions hidden, locked away. Your body performs, your mind is silent, and your heart? It is no longer yours to listen to. The horror of this rule begins to sink in. The emperor's power is absolute, and your identity, your very emotions, are of no consequence to him. You must become numb. To maintain your safety, you must turn off every feeling, every trace of humanity. And the worst part is the realization that this is not just survival. This is what the emperor demands. Through this, you begin to see the emperor for what he truly is, a man who lives in constant fear. Fear of betrayal, fear of losing control, fear of being seen for what he truly is, a lonely, paranoid man who uses power as a shield. He's not just the ruler, he is someone desperately trying to prove his divinity. His need to control every detail of the concubines' lives, to suppress their emotions, is a reflection of his own internal struggle. The emperor's psychological makeup is laid bare before you. In the end, he is not an all-powerful god. He is just a man, desperate to maintain his grip on everything around him. And the more you follow these rules, the more you see how fragile his power truly is. The fourth rule is one of the most crushing. You must maintain complete silence during intimacy, unless the emperor commands you to make noise. It sounds simple, but in reality, it is a terrifying and powerful tool of control. The emperor alone decides if your pleasure or pain is allowed to be heard. Everything you feel must be suppressed, held deep inside. At first, you think this must be a mistake. How can you not speak, not react to what's happening to your body? But as the days pass, you begin to understand. The women who came before you move through their days in a strange silence. When the emperor comes into the room, their faces are still, their bodies unmoving. They've learned how to control every part of themselves. Every breath, every movement, every reaction is calculated. They have learned to suppress everything, desire, fear, pain, until nothing is left but the emperor's will. You watch them closely. When one of the women is summoned, she doesn't flinch, doesn't hesitate. Her body remains still, her face emotionless. They have been trained to disassociate, to feel nothing, so they are nothing more than vessels for the emperor's pleasure. The idea of being a human, of feeling something genuine, is slowly erased from their minds. The more you observe, the more you realize the consequences of this rule. The silence is not just about obedience, it's about control over your entire being. The emperor must be the one who dictates everything, even the most intimate parts of your body. Your own desires and responses become irrelevant. You become an object, existing only to please him, to perform as he commands. The psychological toll is immense. You see the women who have been here for years, their eyes hollow, their voices quiet, their spirits dim. Some have lost the ability to speak at all, unable to express themselves even when they are alone. Their silence has become a part of them. They are no longer people with thoughts and emotions. They are mere vessels, shaped by the emperor's control, unable to feel or communicate their pain. You feel it happening to you too, slowly. The need to remain silent, to suppress everything, becomes stronger each day. You start to wonder if you will ever feel anything again, anything real. You're caught between survival and the slow erosion of who you are. The emotional weight of this rule is suffocating. You're trapped in a world where nothing you feel matters. Your body, your mind, your very soul are not your own. They belong to the emperor, to his will, to his desires. And as you sit in the silence of the palace, you begin to understand the true cost of obedience. The fifth rule is one that truly shows the emperor's need for control. The emperor's climax must always come last. At first, this seems strange, perhaps even insignificant. But as the eunuch explains, it is the most important rule of all. The emperor's release is not just about physical pleasure. It is about restoring the cosmic order, about reaffirming his divine right to rule over everything and everyone in his empire. In the emperor's eyes, his climax is sacred. It is the moment that reaffirms his divinity, his connection to the heavens. For the concubines, this means they must always delay their own pleasure. Their responses are not theirs to control. They must learn to monitor every feeling, every movement, every breath, so that they do not reach their own peak before the emperor does. The women of the harem have become experts in controlling their bodies, suppressing every natural instinct to please the emperor, to make sure his cosmic order is never disrupted. You too are learning this. Every time the emperor summons you, you must anticipate his needs, his desires, and time your own body in a way that ensures you are always in sync with him. The idea of mutual pleasure, of sharing a moment of intimacy with the emperor, is forgotten. You no longer think of your own satisfaction. Your body is no longer yours. It is simply a tool to reaffirm the emperor's power. As the days go by, you begin to feel the weight of this rule. You cannot feel pleasure freely anymore. Every touch, every movement is calculated. You're not allowed to feel what you want to feel. You suppress your desires, your pleasure, and any hopes of intimacy. The emperor's satisfaction is the only thing that matters. The toll this takes on you emotionally is immense. Your body has become something mechanical, a thing that exists only to serve a purpose. You wonder, more than once, if your own humanity will disappear completely. You're becoming nothing but an instrument for the emperor's self-validation. The emperor's needs come first, always. His pleasure, his release is a cosmic event. And in that moment you realize that you and the other concubines are not women. You are objects, tools used by a man who needs to feel in control. Your existence is reduced to one single purpose, to serve, to wait, to please. The sixth rule is one that strips away what little dignity is left. After intimacy, you must remain in position, often prostrate until the emperor decides to release you. No matter how exhausted, no matter how much your body aches, you must stay exactly where you are, motionless. You're not allowed to clean yourself, adjust your position for comfort, or show any sign of discomfort. The emperor can return to his normal life, as if nothing has happened, but you remain frozen, your body still marked by the encounter. At first, the idea of this rule seems almost impossible to comprehend. Why would the emperor require such submission? Why must you remain in that position, even after everything is over? But as you experience it firsthand, the truth becomes clear. This rule isn't just about obedience. It is about reinforcing the absolute power the Emperor holds over every part of you, even in the most vulnerable moments. You must stay in that position because it is a reminder of your submission. You are not allowed to have your own space, your own sense of comfort, even in the aftermath. You begin to understand how this rule highlights the stark inequality that defines the Emperor's view of you. He is free to do as he pleases, to return to his normal life, to call for food, drink, or even other women. He can dress, rest, and move on. But you remain there, prostrate, frozen in place, bearing the physical evidence of the encounter. You're a tool, a vessel that must wait to be released from its duty. Your body is no longer yours, not in those moments. It is merely a thing to serve his will. The emotional toll this takes on you is profound. Every part of your body aches, not just from the physical strain, but from the mental weight of knowing that you must remain in that position until he decides you're allowed to move. You feel like an object, a thing to be discarded when it is no longer needed. It is impossible to ignore the power imbalance. The Emperor can resume his life as if nothing has happened, but you remain frozen, trapped in that moment, a reminder of your submission. The vulnerability in these moments is overwhelming. It isn't just about physical discomfort, it is about the psychological toll of being treated like an object, of being forced into a position that strips away your dignity and humanity. You wonder if you'll ever feel like a person again, or if you'll simply continue to exist in these frozen moments, waiting to be released. The seventh rule introduces an ever-present, gut-wrenching fear. You must report any pregnancy immediately, even if you're unsure. Failing to report it results in death, but falsely reporting one brings a severe beating that leaves permanent scars. The threat of pregnancy is not only a matter of survival, but one of constant anxiety. Every time you feel a slight change in your body, every missed cycle, every unfamiliar sensation, you are filled with dread. The knowledge that your life hinges on a single simple report is suffocating. Your every thought is consumed with the possibility of becoming pregnant. But it's not just the fear of bearing a child that haunts you. It's the realization that any mistake could cost you everything. If you fail to report a pregnancy, you know the punishment will be swift and brutal. But what happens if you report one that isn't real? The consequences are no less severe, perhaps even worse. The penalty for such a mistake is not just physical pain, but a mark on your body that will never fade, a permanent reminder of your failure. The constant monitoring of your body, of your every movement, feels like a prison. You are no longer in control of yourself. Every little sign, every subtle change is watched closely. You must become an expert in hiding your natural responses, suppressing the fear, the discomfort, the very signs of your own humanity. You begin to feel less like a person and more like a subject under surveillance, waiting for something to go wrong, always under the watchful eyes of the palace guards and the eunuchs. The eighth rule introduces a more insidious form of control, the presence of other concubines. The Emperor's court is filled with women who are not just his lovers, but also his competition. Every concubine must compete for his attention, for his favour. You are not just fighting against time and fear, you are fighting against each other. The atmosphere in the harem becomes charged with jealousy and resentment. The other women are no longer friends, they are threats. They are rivals who must be watched, who must be outshone, whose failures must be quietly celebrated. It is a game of survival, where every interaction is scrutinized, every smile or gesture twisted into something that could determine your place in the Emperor's favour. The competition is ruthless, and the emotional cost is high. You start to internalize this competition. You find yourself looking at the other women with suspicion, wondering if they are secretly plotting against you, or watching your every move. You learn quickly that to survive here, you must never show weakness. You must never let the Emperor see that you are afraid or vulnerable. You must suppress everything, not just in your own body, but in your relationships with the other women as well. The psychological toll of being constantly surveilled, of living in a world where every moment could be your last, begins to break you down. You begin to feel like an object, something to be used, something to be discarded. You no longer know who you are beneath the rules, beneath the fear, beneath the constant pressure to conform. The walls of the Forbidden City close in on you, and you wonder if you'll ever escape this cycle of fear, competition, and surveillance. The ninth rule is one of the most insidious. You must instantly read and respond to the Emperor's emotional state, adjusting your behaviour accordingly. Whether he is angry, sad, happy, or pleased, you must know exactly how to behave. The slightest mistake, responding with the wrong tone, the wrong gesture, could cost you your place in the harem. This rule forces you to become an expert in emotional manipulation, not just from the Emperor, but towards him as well. If he is angry, you must be soothing, calm, but never presumptuous. If he is sad, you must comfort him, but not with pity. If he is celebratory, you must share his joy, but not to the point of excitement. Every moment, every shift in his mood is a delicate dance you must master if you are to survive. The emotional toll of this rule begins to weigh heavily on you. The constant monitoring of his moods is exhausting. You must suppress your own feelings, your own desires, your own instincts to mirror his. You no longer know where you end and the Emperor begins. Your thoughts, your actions, your behaviour, everything must revolve around him. You begin to lose track of who you are because every part of you is twisted to meet his needs. The 10th rule makes it worse. You must remember every detail of your encounters with the Emperor. But once you leave his chambers, you must forget it all. You must retain the perfect recollection of what pleased him, what disappointed him, what his body language said, what words he used. You're expected to remember everything that could help you next time you serve him. But once you step outside his chambers, that memory must be erased. You cannot carry any trace of the encounter with you. You must forget what happened, what you felt, and who you were. This rule feels like a constant tug of war inside your mind. On the one hand, you need to remember everything to survive, to stay in the Emperor's favour. On the other hand, you must forget it all when you leave, because holding on to those memories means carrying the weight of your own humanity, and that is not allowed. This cycle of remembering and forgetting slowly begins to tear at your mind. It feels as if you're trapped between two worlds, one that demands constant performance, and one that denies you the right to be yourself, to have an identity. The psychological toll of these rules becomes evident as you struggle to balance the emotional manipulation and the constant erasure of your own feelings. Your identity begins to fragment. You are not allowed to feel like a whole person. You're an object shifting according to the Emperor's moods, and when you leave his presence, you are forced to forget the person you became in those moments. The more you try to hold on to yourself, the more you feel like you're slipping away. You wonder if anyone has ever survived the harem without losing a piece of themselves. The walls of the Forbidden City close in tighter, and with every passing day you lose more of who you were, replaced with a version of yourself that is always under the Emperor's control. The final rules revolve around two things that are forbidden in the Emperor's harem: resistance and love. But even in the darkest corners of the Forbidden City, the concubines find small ways to resist the system. These acts of rebellion are subtle, whispered conversations between women when no one is looking, secret messages passed from one to another, and even the daring hope of escape. It is in these tiny rebellions that the concubines cling to the last threads of their humanity. You watch them closely, learning that no matter how tightly the Emperor tries to control everything, there are moments where the women manage to take back a little piece of themselves. They may not be able to defy the system openly, but in secret, in the quietest of ways, they find a way to hold on to their souls. But love is a different matter. It is also forbidden. The Emperor demands that the concubines serve him without feeling anything from him, without any real affection, but they must simulate it perfectly to survive. The women must act as if they love him, even when the truth is something darker. The Emperor sees love as a form of control, an emotional connection that could weaken him, so it must be faked. Love becomes nothing more than another performance, another role to play in the harem. As you watch this, you realize that even the deepest emotions, the ones that make you human, must be a lie. Your own feelings, your own heart are no longer yours to claim. You begin to understand the weight of the system. The Emperor's desire to control not just the women's bodies, but their hearts as well. Even the one thing that could make the pain bearable, the one thing that could give you strength must be performed. Your emotional rebellion grows as you reflect on this. You wonder if it is even possible to love someone in a place like this, where love itself is nothing but a weapon. You learn that every act of affection must be calculated, every word of comfort must be a show. In the end, even love becomes another tool of survival, stripping it of its authenticity. The realization hits you like a wave. You've spent so much time trying to suppress your emotions, to bend to the will of the Emperor, that you've forgotten what it feels like to truly love, to feel real affection. You begin to see how these women, broken and bent, still find ways to keep their hearts alive, even if it means pretending. Thanks for watching, friend. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your support means everything and helps us bring more of these hidden stories to light.